you can stay in your think you're in control fantasy world and try to embrace something that's not even real. It's not real. Or you can embrace the reality you live in. It's messy. It may not even pleasant, but that's reality. Either you embrace your reality or try to live in a fake, non-real world of what you think it should be.
You're listening to With You Podcast, where we talk about real relationships and life transitions. I'm David.
And I'm Tara. And this season, we'll be exploring marriage.
Yeah, we'll be hearing couples tell their stories from different ages, stages, and backgrounds.
And we all have a lot to learn from each other, so let's get started.
Sounds good.
We're very excited to be here.
Yay. So we just want everybody to know who you are. So if you guys could get us started by just introducing yourselves kind of one at a time, give us your name and a little bit about who you are and where you're from, and then we'll get into your story of your togetherness.
Right, Joy, you go first.
My name is Joy Lobatos. I grew up in the Chicago area in Naperville, and I work at Wheaton College with David. So that's how we know each other.
Yay!
And, I really enjoy doing admin work, and we have one daughter, Maya, who's 20.
She's 20 already?
Holy moly.
She is.
Oh my goodness.
That's kind of shocking.
I'm feeling old.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, Joy. And what about you, Amado?
Well, my name is Amado Lobatos. I was born in Guadalajara and brought to the United States when I was 8 to work in Wyoming, and came to Chicago to go to Bible college and met a hot tamale there, and stayed in Chicago for pretty much the last 30 some years.
Nice.
So I love the Lord, love my wife, love what I do, and I'm just glad that I get to be here with you guys tonight.
We're glad too. Thank you.
And what you're spending some of your time doing nowadays?
Oh, you want to know what I do?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
Well, I am a pastor of a church in Clarendon Hills. I'm a community care pastor here, and also my other passion is chaplaincy work. I love work being a corporate chaplain as well. That's another job I have that I love doing. So.
Yeah, Amado and I have kind of similar jobs, just slightly different. He's on the chaplain side, I'm on the mental health side, but it's both coming alongside people, and it's really been fun to see you find that passion, Amado.
Thank you. I love it.
Well, we want to know, so kind of growing up in different places, you were in Wyoming, came to Chicago for Bible college. How'd you run into the hot tamale?
Right. What was your the first time your paths crossed?
Well, I have to, Joy has to jump in and fill in the blanks, because it's a little later in the evening. My ADD medications begin to wear off, and so I'll be chasing squirrels a little bit. So bring me back, please.
All right.
It's interesting because I have always struggled with a self-esteem issue, and asking girls out I'd rather dive off a cliff than asking a girl out. And it was just one of those hard things. And I had applied to come to Moody Bible Institute, and my senior year, I had broken up with a girl that said she didn't want to ever marry a pastor, so we had to go separate paths. And then into my senior year, I had some floor mates that were saying, there's this girl named Joy who just likes you, and you could ask her out and she'd probably say yes. And I just, oh my goodness, I couldn't muster the courage to ask her out. And when they said Joy and they said she's a freshman, I'm like, she's a freshman. She doesn't know what she wants. And so I just, because besides, when I saw her, I said, holy cats. So I just was, she's so cute. I mean, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But even then, even with them telling me, I just couldn't ask her out. I just Yeah, and I don't know. I guess there was a couple times where I was looking for her, and I caught her here and there staring at me, and it was like, wow, I think she likes me, but what if she says no? Rejection was definitely not going to be on the table. And I even think, Joy, I wrestled most of my life, but somehow I'd go to the gym and find myself playing basketball, which I never did, with her. I didn't know what was going on. I just thought I didn't know that she was planning stuff. But anyway, she was working out at the same time I was and killing me in basketball.
Oh, I'm learning something new.
Lose. And so I don't know, Joy, you want to take it any more from here?
It sounds like you spotted him first, Joy. What went on there?
Oh, he was really cute. And a friend of mine, or my roommate, was actually really good friends with some of the guys on his floor. And so I had learned about him from her and from them. And so, I wanted to get to know him more. So I, was able to be in some strategic locations at good times. And
smart girl.
we played horse, quite a bit down in the gym.
And that's a basketball game, right? For those who don't get on the court.
Yeah, I learned that. I learned that game.
Just playing around, really.
So what was so horse is where you do trick shots, and if you make it, the other person has to do the same thing to make it, and misses end up spelling out horse, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
So what was your best shot, Joy?
Long distance. Like long 3-pointers and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Nice. So I'm curious of how much did you let him be close and how much did you just destroy him?
I never took it easy.
You went hard.
I never won.
No,
I don't think I ever won. I've come close a couple times. Like what? Then when I said, "Why don't we go wrestle?" That's my sport. Like,
That's a big step there.
No, I never said that. I would have passed out if I asked to do that.
That is
somehow
funny.
The powers that be at Moody would frown upon that.
But so I finally, she's so stinking cute. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I also felt like I wasn't quite ready either. But I finally, after almost a full year, I don't know how long it took me, maybe the whole year, I asked her out. And she said no.
Oh
my goodness.
It took forever.
So had you moved on, Joy? What was going on there?
I had.
Oh,
yes.
no.
Somebody else had asked me out and I was like, all right, sure. I don't think anything's happening over here. So let's see what happens. But
so then, Amado, you screwed up enough courage. You said,
and then, that night, I was like, I knew it. This is why I don't ask girls out.
Oh,
they'll say no. And she said no. And, I just, licked my wounds and thought, okay, well, doggone it. And I didn't. It was like disappointing that I finally mustered the courage to ask her out. She said no. And I thought, well, I guess I'll have to just wait till the Lord brings the next wonderful opportunity.
Yeah. So what was that opportunity? So, because you ended up being together. So now I'm really curious.
We know the ending, so that part's spoiled. But not the ending. We're still going. That's the wrong choice of words. But Joy, how did you feel about that when he finally asked you? Can you just paint that picture? Like, how did he broach that? How did that come up?
Well, so turns out this other situation wasn't going real great.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? Yeah, I can maybe put a pause on that and just, go out. We were going to go out for dessert, Amado and I. And so I thought, well, let's just see how this is. Yeah. And so I called him back and was like, hey,
yes.
That offer is still available? Because maybe we could just go out. So we did.
We did, yeah.
It was good.
Did I pay
went out for dessert
that first time?
Yes.
That was my yeah. So I took her out and we went to a dessert place that I liked, and but she actually asked me out on a date. And did you take me to Lou Malnati's? Because I think you might have
No,
paid
we went to Oprah's.
Oprah's. Oprah's, that's even more amazing.
Oh,
And
Oh,
My
right.
so
dad worked in the city,
yeah.
and he was a manager for Amoco BP. And so through that, he ended up getting lots of gift cards and stuff for the Let Us Entertain You restaurants. So he would share the wealth sometimes. And so Amado and
So
I got to go on some fun dates.
Oprah's restaurant, because I
Mhm.
imagine you going to Oprah Winfrey's house over in the
Oh,
high
no.
sky rises on the Lakeshore.
No,
Oh, it
just the
wasn't that.
restaurant.
Just
Oh,
the
okay.
restaurant. Okay.
I was thinking it was the taping of her show because I used to go to that back in the day in Chicago too.
Yeah, no, just the restaurant. And then we did
Food.
go to Lou Malnati's once, and got the dessert pizza.
oh
Never
yeah,
had that.
Oh, that's
So
It's
we're all
amazing.
getting hungry. So
you guys kind of cracked the seal.
yes,
was this the first time you'd sat down together for a conversation that wasn't like around a basketball hoop?
I think so.
I
Yeah,
think
everything else.
so.
Mhm.
Yeah. I should have known though, that night at Oprah's was quite an adventure because he was all excited, and he worked at Turtle Wax, the
Mm-hmm.
car wash place.
Yep.
And he'd been working, and he got back to his room and was getting ready. And he he forgot to wash his hands before he took his contacts out, and he got hydrochloric acid in his eyes.
Oh no.
And
Oh.
he still tried to come. we still
Bloodshot eyes,
we still
watering.
went.
I'm not missing this. I'm not missing this.
That's commitment.
You are
Yeah.
not letting something stand in the way.
Oh,
But
Wow.
yes, so
So how was the conversation? Was it comfortable? Was it
well,
awkward? Like what happened?
conversation was good, I would say. Like it was pretty easy. But we ended up having to go to the emergency room.
yeah.
So
Oh,
So
that's
that
a
he
good
didn't
story.
lose his sight.
right,
And
exactly.
I think your mom and dad were in town, and they actually took us to Northwestern. I think is where I ended up being
Yeah. So
in the ER, having these suction cup things in my eyes. They're just washing my eyes.
Oh, so
Oh,
you had to go get a professional eye wash.
Uh-huh.
that's
so
a
it was
that's
an
a
adventure.
that's a memorable date.
It was. Oh my goodness.
And Joy came with you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
she and
there
her
you
parents
go.
were there for sure, and I well, just because I know we probably have limited amount of time, but uh, it wasn't too long before I like, oh man, I just like this girl, and I am not a Latino lover type, and I'm not the romantic type. I just mentally things have to make sense to me, and I'm more logical, and I just don't always think how things sound. And I just, when we went out and talked seriously, I asked, so what kind of guy are you really looking for? Let's find out if I'm the right guy for you or not.
Yeah.
And that's how I used to talk, and I still do sometimes. But I think I scared her that night when I asked that question.
Oh, so you went straight for it. Like is
What are you
this-
looking
yeah.
for in a husband? Here's the
That was
checklist,
it.
and here
That
I
was
am.
it.
Oh,
It
really?
was.
Yeah, that was it.
Oh.
What are you looking for in a husband?
Oh, so yeah.
I think that was date 3, maybe.
Hey, you know what you're getting with Amado, right? He's just
You
like,
do.
Never, yeah, there's no
Yeah, straight up.
bait and switch. You got it.
so how was that received by you, Joyce?
I was a little overwhelmed. I mean, we're 5 years apart, so I'm 5 years younger than he is. So that was a little early for me, really thinking about all that. But so I knew I liked him a lot, but then that led for the next couple of years of us kind of dating off and on. He graduated and was done with school, and I was still finishing up. And we dated long distance for a while. We broke up for a while, but in the end, just knew we really belonged together. So ended up back together after I graduated.
So what was it? I know it sounds like you guys had some good conversations at the beginning and adventures in the ER. But so take us through that. after these first 3 dates or so, and he's already kind of started to talk about long term,
Hmm.
did that scare you off at first and you kind of backed away, or did you guys keep dating with the thought that that might be where it was headed?
I think I think some of both, honestly. Like I think I kind of went back and forth a little bit. Like I knew long term what I wanted. I mean, my parents were junior high sweethearts. My grandparents were married 72 years. Like I knew what I wanted. Um, but I just didn't know if I was there yet. So,
Mm.
um,
So
yeah,
a lot
but
of it was timing, not necessarily doubts about the match.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
And
And not having dated like a ton at that point because I wasn't that old, just kind of not knowing, you know,
Yeah, like
could I have
how do you
found?
know?
Yeah. So,
so, Amado, kind of growing up in Mexico and then living in Montana, what were the messages
Was it
about
Wyoming?
marriage or Wyoming?
Wyoming,
One of those
Oh,
big sky states. They're
out
all
Wyoming,
in the
west,
same
Montana,
class.
Colorado, some other
Colorado,
place out
yeah.
there. All the same.
Anything past the Mississippi, I just kind of consider one big landmass. But kind of in those places with family, what was kind of your vision of marriage? So Joy was saying parents connected when they were kind of young
Yeah.
teenagers and grandparents married for 72 years.
yeah.
There's this kind of longevity thing. What was it in your family? What was the message about marriage in your family?
It was a whole different world. I grew up in a home where my dad, who was a very hardworking man and worked hard to bring us to the United States to have the opportunity, but he had a lot of vices, drugs, alcohol, gambling, womanizing, and there were times where our home was very violent, and I was basically because I was the oldest son, I was the one that oftentimes had to stop my dad from beating my mom to death, and so it was ugly. It was fun when he wasn't drunk or high or on crazy stuff, but it was not a very pleasant home when dad was drunk. It was okay when he wasn't, but you just never knew. And I had two worlds that I lived in. One was my home, which was it was fun, our home was driven by hard work. You just work hard. That's the only reason you came to this country. And then I had an adopted pastor, mentor, father, my spiritual mentor, who really just brought me into his home and would go on family vacations with him, and watching him and how he would just love on his wife and how his daughters and how he treated his children, and he just demonstrated to me what a potential home could be. And so I like, oh, if I have to have a choice of which one I want, my family was much more fun than my pastor's family, but my pastor's family was always consistent, and so do I. Like, I don't ever want to have a home where I'm so drunk that I beat my wife, and the only way to avoid that would be through Jesus Christ, and I really firmly believe that, and so that allowed me to at least have a vision of what a marriage could be if the Lord was to take over it. And so it was, and then watching Joy's parents also was lots of fun, and Joy's mom and dad have never ever treated me anything less than a son. Never. And I haven't always deserved it, for sure. But I just knew that because of the foundation of Jesus Christ, there was hope in a marriage. And I'm sure we'll talk a little more about it, but and it's been so hard, but I can say after almost 30 years that I'm more in love with Joy today than when we got married. But I would say the only reason I would say is because of Jesus Christ. I don't think there's any other reason I could say than that. And of course, Joy.
Yeah.
And
That's a good
but
combo right there.
But
yeah, and
it's
I'd give that credit to being able to see a hope by picture from my pastor and his home and his wife. And Joy has met Ruthie and Dick Young, and they're just precious human beings. And so,
Yeah,
you know,
those
that allowed me to
influences.
have a future.
Yeah, we oops. Those influences are really important, and that's kind of why we ask those questions because we have models in our lives for good and for not so good that we bring with us, and so it's kind of how do we repeat some of the things that we want to repeat and overcome some of the things that we have to overcome, and that's amazing that you had such a contrast and started to build your idea of what you wanted.
And with
I do have to share that Joy had told me that her dad loved Mexican food. Now, I had never ever cooked in my life. Men in our home didn't cook. But I think it was while we were at school that we went home, and I got this harebrained idea and said to Joey, "We need to cook Mexican for Dad because I know how much he likes Mexican food." And so I said, "Joe, I've never cooked. I call Mom, and Mom can help you and me, and we'll do it together." And what we spent like 5.5 hours making tortillas. Like, you remember when you guys came over to our house,
yes,
Mhm.
rolling
that was
tortillas?
so fun.
Oh, it was a fun night, and I think that was a meal that was all prayer because I wanted Dad to like me.
Oh,
Ah,
so this is before you were married that you did
Yeah.
this for Joy's parents? Oh, that's amazing. Food often wins hearts, I always say. It's a good
Oh,
way to do it.
and it sounds like though they loved you regardless, that kind of
Yeah.
unconditional love. You
Tortillas or
didn't
no
you
tortillas.
didn't have to
no.
do anything to earn
Oh,
the
yeah.
love, which is it's a different experience. That's that Jesus experience from
Amen.
the spiritual family and Joy's family, that you're enough just in who you are, not because you are creative at learning how to make tortillas.
And probably
Which
because Joy
was the
loved
first
you.
time I think I made them.
Yeah. Well, had to start somewhere. That was a good reason.
So you guys had these models and you've been off and on. What tell us the story of how it kind of shifted to, oh, we're gonna commit to this forever.
I think
Okay.
I think
Go-
it
go.
ended up just we were supposed to I was supposed to fly out to see him in Philadelphia, and had a fight on the phone or something, and I canceled my trip. And I was babysitting for a family and over spring break or something. And the wife um, was talking to me about it, like when she was driving me back to school. We were just having a conversation about it, and she said something about, you know, not necessarily looking for the person that you want to be with, but the one you feel like you can't be without. And I that stuck with me because, we were back and forth so much because I was really feeling that. Like, I didn't not want him in my life, but we needed to work through some of the challenges. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then yeah, once we figured that out, though, then it was like full steam ahead.
So that sounds like that was a helpful thing that shifted it for you of realizing I don't want to be without him. So
Yep,
why not
yep,
like commit? And so how
exactly.
long had you guys been doing sort of the dating dance by this point?
We
3 years.
dated we dated for 2 years, and then we were engaged for almost one after that before we got married.
Oh, I want to hear the engagement story.
Oh, no, you don't. Oh, man.
Oh,
So like I said,
maybe
I'm not a
maybe I don't.
romantic. I am logical. So I asked Dad because I knew that had to be a requirement. And when he gave me permission, I just have I probably would redo it if I had to go back, and I'd love to make up something just to make myself look good, but I can't. Um, so I have always okay, philosophically, here's what I said, and this is embarrassing, but I said, Joy, I think you're hot, and I am attracted to you, and I would love to spend the rest of my life with you. but the way I define being in love, I don't believe I could be in love with somebody I don't know that well. I am in love with the Lord because I spend a lot of time getting to know him. But I think if I got to know you, I would definitely fall in love with you eventually. Would you marry me? I said that. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, Joy. I can tell you that after 30 years, I am in love now. But
Yeah, you got to know her and you kind of
she
grew
is
into it.
amazing. She's very amazing.
So with that romantic ask, Joy, how did you respond?
Um, we were just at my parents' house. We were just in the family room watching TV, and he just surprised me. Of course, I was thrilled. Yeah, it was all good. Sometimes I wish it was a little more unique or thought out. I don't know, whatever. But but I knew the heart was there. So
Yeah.
Nothing special about that one. I can agree to there.
Well, it is. It was the question that brought up the idea of we're moving into commitment. So however that is, I think it's oversold that these, promposals and engagements
Oh, yeah.
have to be so grand and so, creative. I mean, sometimes there's just, this is what my heart wants, and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So
So as an outside observer of Joy and Amado's relationship, just in the last 10 years of it really fits with that whole playing horse thing of like doing things together is really where the beauty of your love comes through. Like Joy has been telling me they've been outrigging a van as a camper to go camping. And so
Wow.
working on weekends and evenings on doing everything, right? Like working on the inside and with Amado's construction ability and Joy's creativity that they're building.
Detail.
Yeah, detail.
Yeah.
We all need a detailed person in our life.
Oh.
Speaking as one that needs it. But I think
needs it. You mean me?
Yeah, I need you.
Yeah.
But as I see you, that's the heart of your relationship. So that the ask was still kind of a thing you did together. You both kind of agreed, and but that's from an outside perspective, that's a symbolism of kind of what the strength of your relationship is. When you guys are working together with a project, with a focus, you look, at least from the outside, unstoppable.
It's true, but I need to kind of explain how we got there because that wasn't accidental. As you know, David, that we as men are pretty clueless. Let's just be honest.
All right.
Clueless.
Well, that's hurtful, but yes,
yes, true. I'm sorry.
I resemble that. So
women are sharp and they know how to get her done. But I love what I do. I love my job, but I have this tendency to be caught up in my work, and then I come home and want to go work in the shop or gonna want to do something else. And at the beginning of our marriage, and I was totally ignoring Joy. It really, if it's one of those dumb things like I told you I love you. If it changes, I'll let you know. Kind of stupidity.
Yeah.
But she put her foot down and said, I want to spend time with you. You can't be doing 4 Bible studies a week, and you can't be coming home, eating supper, and going to the shop, or just being away from me. What's the point of being married if you're never going to be with me? And honestly, we had some horrible fights at the beginning because, I'm the man. But I'm so glad she put her foot down and to the point to where she didn't stop. And I finally gave in. And one of the things that we started doing was just sitting down, watching TV and holding hands. I mean, because to me, that was like the worst thing in the world to do. You're just now useless as can be. And not realizing that is what Joy knew we needed to do if we're going to have a future together. If I'd have continued to fight and gone separate ways, 10 years would have gone by and we would have been in 2 different worlds and our marriage would have been over because I would have been hiding behind working for the Lord, being away from home all the time. But I'm glad she forced me to sit down and hold hands and watch TV and that van is another wonderful thing of we have to work together within our gifts though, because she designed it and I built it based on her specs, but she couldn't tell me what screws to use. And I couldn't give her dimensions. And it's funny because I built it and just based on her numbers. And when we got it together, she ordered everything and it fit perfectly. And I'm like, holy cats, we got so lucky. And Joy's like, this isn't luck,
Yeah.
but we work so well together within our own giftedness. And it just, in that van is a beautiful representation of how talented Joy is in detail management and my construction skills. And together we stay in our lane.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and we have fun together too. There's times when we found ourselves dying, laughing so hard. And that's just, I mean, that's because we're together. And I think Joy's the reason because of that. If it was up to me,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
and that's all about breaking those default patterns too. And it's a huge thing that we're hearing from everyone we're talking to about their marriage, that direct communication. I think, and you're talking about kind of the men and generalizing, and I'll generalize about myself with the women folk that like sometimes we think we'd like our minds to be read about what we need, right? Like I think that's pretty common. Like if you really love me and knew me, you'd know that I want to sit on the couch and hold hands. For me, it's, yeah, you would know I want the dishes done by you because I cooked or whatever. And it takes a while to realize that it's actually much healthier to just say, this is what I would like from you. And it goes a long way. And it doesn't mean that that person doesn't love you if they don't just read your mind, right?
amen. Thank
And
you,
that,
Deb.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great that Joy spoke and that you listened.
Oh, I praise God she did.
Yeah, we can go through the motions and years can go by before we realize it's time for a conversation. So, yeah, I'm glad you shared that. Thanks for sharing that. So, I think we kind of skipped ahead a little bit because we heard their proposal and and then so the beginning of that. So you were engaged for about a year and you got married around this area too?
Yep, in Naperville,
Yeah.
at what is now the Compass Church.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, got
Yeah.
married there. It was a fun day, but it was challenging, for the first time having Amado's big Mexican family, and all the cultural expectations that I was not aware of, and
Mm.
those kinds of things to navigate. And
Yeah, how did you do
I'm
that? How did you kind of navigate cultural differences around rituals and family expectations?
I wish I had done it better, to be honest. I feel like Amado wasn't like super worried about the wedding, different parts of it. Um, so I think I just kind of did what I was thinking, and I wish I would have included more with his family. Um, and it's just two different worlds, right? I mean, our wedding was a very typical wedding in this area,
Yeah.
but very different than what would be typical in Wyoming, and just because you know availability of facilities, different things like that. So I kind of wish I would have included them more in some of that. I mean, they were involved. I mean, his brother sang, but it was the things that I had in my mind, and I kind of wish. I think looking
Yeah.
back, it would be nice to have more.
Well, and we only know what we know, right? When I
Yep,
look back at my wedding too, and I think, oh my gosh, I realize I was only 22, and there's a lot I
yep,
didn't know. But we only are where we are when we
yep.
are there. Had you met his family before that, or was that?
Oh,
I
yeah.
Yeah,
I did meet them once or twice. I can't remember. Um,
I knew that she was my future wife, my hope in life. Well, I don't want to say that. I don't know what I meant. When my dad had gotten into some trouble and went to prison, and then after prison he was deported, but he was in prison when we were dating, and she says, "I want to meet your dad." I go, "Why? No, he's in prison." Like, no, I think it's important that I meet your dad.
mm,
And I said, okay. And it required, because he was in a federal prison, it required work for her to get all her documentation in so that she could actually be allowed to enter actually it was Rollins State Prison. And she went through a lot of work to do that. And we went and drove, almost died. It was in the wintertime. Drove to go see my dad in prison. We played cards in prison. It was really just a neat, she accepted every element of who I was. And I was horribly ashamed that I didn't even want to tell her my dad was in prison, but it just was common knowledge. And so the fact that she would want to meet my dad let me know so much about how amazing Joy was, that it wouldn't be embarrassing for her to be married to a man whose father was in prison. And and I think that's one thing that my family still hadn't figured out, how amazing Joy was, because they thought my mom, who was very a tough woman, and all my brothers at the very beginning thought, and our wedding was nice, but for the suburbs it wasn't extraordinarily nice, but it was very nice. But for my family, thought, oh, this is a high maintenance woman. You're going to have to just work your butt off to keep her happy. You're going to be your trophy wife type of nonsense. And they didn't realize, first, I don't make money, so I can't have a trophy wife. Second, Joy is as far from materialism as any human being could possibly be. But they didn't know that. They just saw some of the fancy stuff and thought that there's no chance, because you're never going to work enough to make this woman happy, where they didn't realize that that's not the kind of woman she is. And even to the point to where I think my mom finally fell in love with Joy when she spent 2 weeks with her, learning all her recipes to Mexican food. And that's what you guys tasted. And she's got it down, And so I think they finally got it. And it's taken years. And Joy has been so patient and so kind and so sweet, because it hasn't always been pleasant. They have this biased opinion at times of who they think she is, when she's nothing like that. And so it's been easier for me and Joy's family to bring me in than it was to truly have my family bring her in and say, she's amazing.
So coming from these different kind of cultural expectations, and just kind of how, whether it's money or just seeing how things are done, how have you taken the best of both of your kind of cultural backgrounds and put it together in your marriage? What does that look like?
And this might be a statement. Oh, you can edit this out, right?
Yeah. We won't, but we could.
Well, just in the sense of culture, for the most part, this is generally speaking. Okay, this is generalization. Generally speaking, in the Mexican culture, the woman serves the man. That's just understood. My mom didn't love my dad at all, but she always served him dinner. My mom always, and the men always were served. We ate first. We left everything at the table, and we went on, and the women cleaned up. And then, so there's this, the women serve the men, but there's not a lot of men serving the women in the Hispanic ministry. Not that we're learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I got married, I was like, you're not going to get my plate and iron my clothes. And it's like, and
Joyce, I just want to say, Joy's shaking her head, no.
And she put her foot down, but she established a rule that I think every couple needs to establish. We serve one another.
Yeah.
I don't serve you only, and you don't serve me only. We serve one another, and that's the way it's been.
Yeah.
Because if one is the only one serving, it doesn't work. Eventually, that poor soul gets tired and said, forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that change there of. And I think we fought a lot about that, because there's a part of me that I didn't realize that I brought in of, I'm the man.
Yeah.
I don't have to answer to you. And guess what I do? Biblically, I do. But I think I just lacked respect. I wish I would have respected her more than like I do today. And it took me years to finally figure out the honor and privilege of having such a high functioning woman in my life, and I don't have to be insecure about it, as opposed to, praise God, I have no clue what I did to be blessed with a high functioning, phenomenal woman, as opposed to, I need to put her in her place and make her feel inferior because I'm so insecure, which I see a lot more. And so Anyway,
That's
Yeah, I knew we were going to probably, have some spirited debates when Thanksgiving dinner was all the
ooh,
men at the table and then all the women standing in the other room waiting for them to finish before
yeah.
we were allowed to sit down and eat. And I
Uh,
was like, wait a minute, you mean we're not all going to sit down together? I don't understand. So I was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
yeah, it's not how it's happening here. Were you aware of some of that before you guys got married? Had you guys kind of seen some of these differences and talked about how your expectations might be different?
I don't know if we
I,
talked about them.
yeah, I don't think we were good at
Mm.
talking about them. And I think it made things bumpy. Yeah. In fact, our honeymoon was rough.
No. Hey, that was
We were
said in
only
the
one
counseling.
day in, and I was ready to run away with the pool boy
Oh,
in
boy.
Mexico. So it was rough.
So what
well, yeah.
happened? Tell us.
Well,
So we were in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and Amado is very adventurous. He has no fear. And I am by nature extraordinarily cautious. So I'm afraid of everything. And there was a tropical storm happening in Mexico at the time. And so all the big orange flags were out on the beach. Nobody was supposed to be in the water, you know. But being the
a
adventurous
very phenomenal
spirits
swimmer.
that he is, he decided that it would be fine for him to go in these huge waves in the middle of the storm. And this is literally the day after our wedding.
Yeah.
I was sitting on the beach crying because I was so scared for him. And I was upset that he was okay with me being that scared.
Mhm.
And that he was more worried about having fun on his own versus being concerned about how I was feeling about it. He felt like I was being irrational by saying that the hurricane flags mean something.
mean don't get in the water.
Right. Yeah. So
Keep
the
in mind, I
waves.
grew up with 4 boys and 1 girl, 1 sister, and we teased her to death. And I didn't realize she wasn't my sister.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
That's where it went wrong. So he ended up. The waves were just pummeling him.
20-foot waves,
Like
amazing.
he's having a blast, but I'm sobbing, and this one huge wave just pummels him and like sucks him under, and he doesn't come up. And I'm watching and I'm watching, and he still doesn't come up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm a widow already. Like
The day after your wedding.
One day. And I mean, it was minutes went by and he is nowhere. And I am literally standing on the beach, absolutely panicked. And then I get a tap, tap, tap on my shoulder.
Where had he come from?
He had seen, so the wave had drug him way down the beach.
Catapulted me about 30 feet down.
So he got out and saw that I was looking for him and that I couldn't see where he was. And he thought it would be really funny to sneak up the side of the beach and come up behind me and surprise me.
Okay, so this is where there's a little disconnect between the high need for fun and the high need for safety.
Yeah. I didn't understand why we had no sex on our honeymoon.
I can't figure out why either,
you
Amado.
beat me to it, Amado, but I was going to say, I bet it wasn't a super romantic night.
It wasn't. And, if there's anything in life that I could go back and totally have a redo, that would be number one. Because it did affect the first couple of years of our marriage. And because I was so clueless that I had no idea how horribly I'd hurt her. Because, our home was, buckle up, little camper. What's the big deal? Everything was that growing up. And my mom is one of those, I'm fine. She could have her arm sawed off, blooding to death. I'm fine. Nothing bothered my mom. And I think the mistake is that I not I think, I know I wasn't aware of just how clueless I I was of her feelings and the pain that I caused her. Because like, what's the big deal? I was joking around. It was a joke. Like that should solve everything. But that's what we used to do with our sister, and we traumatized our sister quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But
So
it's those old patterns,
right,
right?
and it's
Yeah.
clear that you guys have come such a long way. So what helped to turn that around or to get through to each other about, repairing those hurts?
I think Joy's patience.
I think
That's right.
also, I mean, truly, the fact that we are still married is, um, it's amazing because we've been through some of the hardest things I think couples can go through, and any one of which I think could do in a relationship. Um, Different ministry things that were extraordinarily difficult, really devastating infertility, just all kinds of really severe challenges that, most of which were not our fault or things that we did. They were just circumstances that we found ourselves in. Um, but I think the combination of like that idea of, well, we can do anything if we're doing it together. We can
Mm.
figure anything out, but we've got to work together and use both of our strengths and not lose our sense of humor and try and stay connected as much as possible in the really hard things. So I think I think for a lot of people, those really hard things pull them apart. But I think for us, it brought us together more as a team. Like we got to get through this together because nobody else gets it. Nobody else knows what this is. So I think that's the biggest thing that's really helped keep us walking forward and work through those things now, like the honeymoon thing, and those things seem small to me now because of all the other stuff that I now know. That's the big stuff. That's the hard
Yeah.
stuff that um, I'm thankful we've been a good team.
Yeah.
So
That's
To
extraordinary.
add to that, we've been able to, when you have enough resources to fake your fantasy marriage forever while you live here, that's fine. But when the resources end, you find out what really is the bond to your marriage and your relationship. And I have to say this because to me it was the most obvious of why our marriage really staying together. And it was because I went through a phase where I um, was tired of ministry. I hated that I was never going to make any money in church, etc., in ministry. And so I resigned and tried to start a science education program with some biophysicist friends. Well, we went bankrupt and lost everything. And it was the most humiliating time of my life. And for me, I felt like I failed Joy. I failed her parents. I was so humiliated by, just didn't even want my family to know that I was the biggest loser in our family. And we were losing our home that we loved. And it was horrible. And I really, if I just, I hated what had happened to us financially. And I remember sitting at the table, the living room or the dining room table, saying to Joy, we need to get divorced. I failed us horribly. You had nothing to do with the screw up in our finances. My fault. And maybe you can take Maya and go live with your dad, and I'll just disappear in life. I was a total loser. Therefore, you didn't have to marry somebody like me. And I was begging her to divorce me, and because I failed her. And I remember Joy saying, I'm not using you for what I need. I love you. I've always loved you, she says. And if I have to be a homeless man's wife on the street, I'll be a homeless man's wife before I divorce you. And not very many human beings get to experience what it's like to be loved so unconditionally, that you're not just a source of something that someone else needs. And to know that Joy loved me so unconditionally was, I mean, how could you not fall in love with that? And so, we continued and we're back up. It's taken us a heck of a long time, honey, but we've done it together. And she could have, and probably most other women would have left, because when the money runs dry, so does the love. But with Joy, she loved me and she continues to love me. And I'm so honored, and it's so easy to love her. I mean, it's a piece of cake. So it's and sometimes situations like that have to, circumstances they don't make you who you are. They just reveal who you are. And that situation revealed our marriage and revealed the phenomenal human being that Joy is.
Well, and I
And
don't
I got to see it.
I don't want it to be missed, Amado, of the tenderness and the openness that you have too, of kind of bumping up against the kind of like we talked about, the stereotypical male model, that you were able to, in a hard time, kind of move from that position of defensiveness and just like, well, I'm just the man and that's the way it is. But there's a beautiful, and I think biblical softness, not weakness, but tenderness, curiosity, openness, that is also helpful in the marriage. Of that, you're even in the like, hey, I let you down, divorce me. There's a
Well, you wanted the best
sensitivity,
for her.
yeah, that you were
Yeah.
looking out for the best for her, and that's different than just serve me.
But it's cool that it was you. The best for her was you. We
Exactly.
like
And
that.
Yeah.
he's being a little bit modest about what led to all of that. It wasn't just that he, like, on some whim decided to do this. There were some really hard things going on at our church
Yeah.
morally that we felt we couldn't be a part of. And so um, he made, we together made the choice that we needed to leave that situation. And so without having anything definitive lined up. And so that it was hard, but the hardness didn't mean it was the wrong choice. And so that's why I couldn't ever be upset with him, because I knew it was the right choice. And so if it was hard, that's fine. We'll figure it out. But we knew it was what we needed to do. So
Mhm. It's such a beautiful way of being in it together. Your story, we could just sit and listen to you guys all evening. You've got some amazing stories, and I bet a whole lot more.
And
But
it's very encouraging.
I know it really is. I think a lot of people are going to be encouraged, because I think people see people who have a strong relationship and think, oh, well, I guess it's easy for them, or they're lucky, like it just works out. And that's not the case. You made it really clear that it wasn't easy even from the very beginning, and you've really committed to being we, and to doing the hard stuff together. So kind of to finish up, we'd love, you guys have got some years under your belt and some experience under your belt, and you got a long way to go, of course, but
Yeah,
we'd
it's
love
just
for
the
you to,
second act.
yeah, it's
There's
just
3 or 4 acts, and this is just the second act.
but we'd love to ask you to share some of your wisdom with maybe some younger people who are thinking about getting married, or are looking for someone to get married to, and just
Or are in
share.
the hard
Or
times. They're
right,
married and in that kind of difficult, painful, maybe we should just toss it in.
right. So what would be kind of a just a nugget of wisdom to share with some of those people kind of in those times?
oh gosh. Um,
I know so many things.
yeah. I think for me, a lot of it, because of the nature of some of the hard stuff we've gone through, is just kind of holding, when I was younger, holding the ideas of what my future was going to look like really loosely.
Yeah.
Um, this is what I hope, but there's a good chance that's not going to be the reality.
Yeah.
And the reality could be really hard. But I have a good partner to get through those hard things with. And there's beautiful things in the hard things. Um, and it's definitely pulled us closer together. You know, it's so messy, and being okay with it being messy and not being exactly how you want it, and being able to see the good and the joy in situations even when they're not what you wanted and not what you hoped. You know, our I feel like our adoption journey with our daughter is just full of all of that. You know, it's hard, it's beautiful, it's painful, it's hopeful, it's miraculous. You know, there's so many things there, and to just not get stuck in the disappointment, but to try and see the positive parts in the challenges. So
Oh my. I boy, Joy, you're so right on that. One of the things that I guess if you could take a statement or choose to go into a state of wanting your mate, not needing your mate. Need somebody is toxic. To want somebody is beautiful. And when I want you, when somebody wants you, it's wonderful. When somebody needs you, once they're done with you, they're done. And so, I mean, I remember when I began to praise God for the woman that God put in my life, as opposed to complaining of the woman he put in my life, which at the very beginning, that seemed to be all I said until the Lord said, Amado, you're just as much of an idiot. So it began, once you realize both of you are idiots, so just quit thinking you're any better. Because if you don't go to that state of wanting her or wanting him, eventually you'll be done. Because if it's just about needing her or needing him, that's going to end. Because you can choose to continue to want. And I do want Joy a lot more today than 30 years ago.
Yeah. And what both of you are saying is hold lightly to kind of the end result and enjoy the process in the pain, in the beauty, and trying to find that beauty in the pain of this is hard and we're going to disappoint each other, and how do we do that together?
It's really beautiful. I'm just going to sit with it for a while. But thank you so much for spending this time. We know your time is precious, and I feel so lucky to have heard this much of your story, but we're going to have to maybe make some tortillas together and hear some more.
Amen.
that sounds perfect. Yes.
I want to see if I can make the biggest tortilla ever made in your kitchen.
David's always got to go
I'm all
big.
about competition, and I want to make the biggest tortilla.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
What an honor.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being with us today. We hope you'll get more information about everything we talked about today on our show notes page on the website.
I was going to say, where could we find the show notes page?
withyoupodcast.com.
Awesome.
And also, while you're at it, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and let us know what you're thinking.
Can we ask that it's only good reviews?
You can ask anything you want.
Okay, leave good reviews. We would love to hear from you and respond. So
thanks for listening.
See you next time.